Right, a new video to help you with your suspension fitting. So I think we're calling this Suspension 101. Myself, Mikey and Josh spend a lot of time trying to help people diagnose knocks and faults and issues they've got with their suspension that's been fitted elsewhere or somebody's had a go at fitting themselves. So Josh came up with the idea to do a video of kind of do's and don'ts and troubleshooting when you come to whether you've had your suspension fitted or if you're going to an independent garage and you want to show them the video. So when they come to fit your suspension, you're confident that they've done everything the way that we would. I'm going to hand you over to Josh. He's going to try and take you through everything that we've learned over the many years of fitting suspension, things that we come up against, noises you might find, knocking you might find, issues you might have with different ages of vehicles, the difference between fitting suspension to a 04, 05 plate T5 through to like this here, nearly brand new T6.1. As much as they're very similar, there are quite a few little differences depending on the age of the vehicle and things like whether it's a T30 or a T32. He's also going to run you through a few tricks that you might need to do if you're going that little bit lower or if you're lifting the vehicle and showing you a few tips and tricks along the way. Hopefully you find this video useful.
So behind me, we've got a pre-face T5. Yes, it's got a T6 front end on it, but it's been facelifted. The hubs on it are early hubs, so there isn't a nut and a bolt, it's just a bolt that holds the shock in. This bolt just here can seize inside the hub, which can make it an absolute nightmare to get out. The only option you have is either drilling them out one by one, which can take about 2 hours per bolt. We use this and effectively heat up the hub itself around the bolts to loosen the thread so you can get them out. That is the only option. We've done the other side on this van, so you can see they're out, but we had to heat this section up for about half an hour per bolt to make the hub soft enough to get the bolts out. It is a bit of a nightmare, but it can be done. Hopefully you don't run into this issue, but if you do, this video will help. So here we have two struts. This is a T30 strut, this is a T32. You can see on the T32 how the bolt layout is at the front of the shock. So this will bolt on the hub, and the T30 slots inside the hub. And then the bolts are at the back and they locate with this little bit here. Worth noting, don't rely on your V5 or your weight classification VIN on the vehicle. Always physically check, because there are times where a T30 and a T32 hub will be on different models. We have a set of B14 comforts for a T32. First thing to note, when you're adjusting the rings, don't go past this mark. If in future you need to adjust it on the vehicle, you can use these slots to hold the adjuster cut while moving the adjuster rings. If you cover this all the way down, it makes it very difficult to lift it back up without spinning the cup. Secondly, these are the original top mount nuts. On suspension you get in the post, you'll have nylock nuts. Remove these and fit the genuine top mount nuts. Don't want to fit these, you want to fit these. Here we have what a knackered top mount looks like. You can see inside it's cracked all the way around. If that is the case on your top mount, you want to replace it for either genuine or one of our Melee sets that's available online. Next up are the dust covers. These want to be fitted along with the top mount, the top hat and the bearing. So top mounts, then this part with the bump stop inside, then the bearing and the dust cover connected, and they sit together like this. Next up, this is a machine top mount. For visual purposes, you can see the difference. It is the bearing sandwiched with the aluminium piece inside. So the aluminium pieces inside been machined down. You gain about 12mm from adding these on. You still put them together in the same orientation with a bump stop and the dust cover, with a solo set, separate bump stop and dust cover. If you have a T5 or a 5.1, you will have the old style top mount. If this is worn or knackered, as we said, with a crack in the top, you will need to replace it for either our supplied Melee top mounts, which look like this. The dust cover connects in here and the bump stop sits in there like this, or you can buy our machine top mounts. It's like that. We have the strut on, which is a T32. Couple of things to note. Dust cover does attach on B14s, there's a little lip here that the dust cover can pop into, like so. That'll stop it from moving when it's compressed and down on the ground. The hub itself, when you attach the damper to the hub, there is some movement. What you want to do when you bolt it up is push it all the way in and do the hub bolts up, so it eliminates any positive camber that may be on the hub. Also, the orientation of the bolts and nuts, they want to go in this direction. This stops any interference with the brake line. When you're on full lock, stop any chafing. This is the same for a T30, which you will have just seen. These are T30 nuts and bolts, so these would locate in the back of the hub, like so. They want to be in this orientation so that the thread is on the opposite side of the brake line to stop any chafing. Next up, drop links. This is a T6.1, so it has the longer solo drop links. This is to stop the interference between the anti-roll bar and the chassis when it's lowered on the ground. I have a standard drop link, try and fit it in. Level at the bottom, and you'll see the small amount in height difference. It's about ½ inch difference. This is to stop the anti-roll bar hitting on the chassis. If you are in Germany or some TUV-approved countries, you by law need to have a longer drop link because any interference with the anti-roll bar and the chassis is illegal and it can fail the EU style MOT. Drop links, sometimes people have a knocking sound coming from a drop link. This can be because the top nut isn't done up tight enough and the thread will move inside the hole of the drop link. If you give it a good tug,
Nice.
you will see there's no movement in this one, but sometimes you can have a bit of movement and that's where knocking can happen. On a T5, 5.1 and some T6s, the D-bushers in the anti-roll bars wear out, causing a gap between the anti-roll bar and the inside of the bush. This can be seen if you move it around. Obviously this isn't going to move because it's T32 and it's brand new, but that is something to note if you have knocking on the front of your transporter. This is only relevant for when fitting new anti-roll bars or you're replacing the bushers. But this can be an issue that you run into. You'll see the 13mm bolts and they seize inside the cast iron wishbone. Hopefully you've not attempted it and it snaps, but if you are just getting onto it and they do seem a bit solid, the best option to get them out is heating the cast iron up just here. Don't heat the bolt up, heat the cast iron, and then it should expand. Slowly you'll be able to work the bolt loose. You can do this on both sides and it should help you get these bolts out if they're seized. So here we are at the back of this vehicle. These are the ABS lines which attach to the top of the wishbone in little holes just here. When you fit solos, you have to move the brake cable to this orientation. Drill, I think 6mm holes, 6-7mm holes in the side of the wishbone and push the little tabs inside so that it secures on the side. The reason why we do this is if you don't do this and the ABS line sits on top, when the vehicle is lowered, the ABS line can interfere with the chassis, and in some circumstances, if you have solo air or solos, it can trap the wire and cut it and give you a brake fault, in which case you'd have to replace all of the wiring. So here we have our comfort spring sat in place. The adjuster needs to be on the top, sits around the bump stop. The lower spring rubber, which we talk about quite a bit when we have customers in. This is the lower spring rubber. This is our uprated polybush version, which works best with lift kits. The spring seats in properly. There's no movement when the lift spring is attached. Here is a visual representation. So this is a knackered spring rubber. As you can see, there's a bit of a hole inside, it's all torn. If a vehicle came with this attached to it and we took the center suspension off, we would replace it for a new version, like for like, brand new, nice rubber. And this is obviously the uprated version. These are available on our website, by the way. So this van being a 4Motion, I can show you the offset lower bush on a Big H damper and also a green comfort rear damper. You can see that the bush is offset to one side. This still attaches in the same way on the bottom of the wishbone, but for 4 motions, it gives clearance for the drive shaft. As you can see, this is a standard comfort damper, and the rear bush is located in the centre. Also, with this being a 4 motion, diff spacers, I've done a little video on these before. These are purely for lift kits. No need to fit these when you're lowering a vehicle. These are just for lift kits, so that it brings the differential lower down to stop any issues with CV joints and extra stress on the bearings. Right, so this is the bump stop. When you're fitting solo coilovers, you want to cut the bump stop down. Always cut the bump stop down. So you want to cut it off flush with the bottom of the adjuster. This stops any interference between the bump stop, the metal, and the little noggin in between the rear spring rubber on the wishbone. So when you're fitting uprated anti-roll bars, or you're simply replacing the rear suspension and your vehicle has factory LEDs fitted, you will have this bracket on the rear. This attaches to the anti-roll bar just here. I've removed it on this one because I'm fitting the suspension. So you'd remove the 13mm and pop it out, just so when you're bringing the wishbone down, you're not pulling on the switch. Also, when you are fitting H&R anti-roll bars, you will have a different bracket. If you have LED option or non-LED, you'll have the LED bracket to replace the lever onto the new anti-roll bars. That will come in the packaging. And on the front, LED lever is attached to the wishbone through this hole with this. When you're removing the coilovers, you want to remove this to stop any stress on the switch, because these are very expensive to buy as a replacement. Right, last thing on my list of things to talk about with fitting suspension is tyres. This is a 275/40 tyre. We would never recommend fitting these to a transporter. First of all, the sidewalls, because of how high the load rating is, the sidewalls are significantly stiffer than, say, a 265/40 or a 255/40. Anything that's load rated up to a T32 is a 104. As this is a 106, the sidewall is ridiculously hard. So for better comfort and better performance, we'd always recommend a 265/40. The other issue is, roll that out of the way, when lowering, even on B14 comforts, which is only a 40 to 70mm drop, you will get catching on the inner arches. The front inner arch, the rear inner arch, and especially so at the top of the arch. There is a little screw up here which holds the arch liner in. There is a little mod that we do every so often. We remove the screw, push the arch liner up above the bracket, and cut off the little plastic tab and bend the metal back up, pushing the arch liner up, giving you a bit more clearance. If you're fitting a 275/40 tyre, when lowering, chances are it will catch when on full lock, and if you hit a bump. Always try to go for a 265/40. That 10mm difference makes a huge amount of difference. Before I pull it down off the ramp, when the spring is on the vehicle, make sure that the writing is facing forwards. Don't have it twisted round. Make sure it's in the centre. This is because we've had situations in the past where a front spring has been knocking and it's down to the spring orientation. So always make sure the spring with the writing is facing outwards.
So hopefully you found that video useful. The idea was, as I said at the beginning, just to try and make it easier for you if you've got any knocks or any noises, or you're about to embark on having some suspension fitted and you want to get a local garage to fit it, and you just want to be sure that they're doing it the right way, or perhaps you're tackling it yourself, you're a confident DIYer and you can have a go. That was just there really just to hopefully iron out any issues you might have, and also for us, just to help us with the amount of people we get ringing us trying to help them diagnose faults from work that's been done elsewhere. So fingers crossed, you might have watched that video and you're going, that's the noise I'm getting and that's why it's happening. So please do like the video, share it with anybody else you think might be interested. It really helps us. If you like the video, YouTube shows it to more people and more people get to have nice quiet suspension that's fitted correctly. Please do subscribe to the channel if you don't already. Ring the little bell and you'll get notifications when new videos come out. Loads more videos come in. We've had quite a break with holidays and various other stuff coming on, but we've got a whole backlog of videos to catch up on, so lots of other cool content coming. And as always, thanks for watching.